Hello everyone, my name is Berat. I'm a software engineer at Delivery Hero FinTech. In this video, we are going to start a new series on my YouTube channel about Spring Boot IoC Container. This video will be my first English speaking video. As you can understand my accent, I'm not a native speaker in English, but I will be careful as much as I can do. I can do some grammar mistake, but promise I will be better in the next videos. What we are going to cover in this video, we are going to cover why IoC Container is such a delightful and important thing during the development lifecycle. What is the cost of it without using an IoC Container? What's the benefit using an IoC Container? We are going to discuss everything during this video, and I'm going to show this with a couple of examples. In the next video, we are going to start IoC Container in Spring Boot, but in this video, we are just only will focus what is IoC Container and why IoC Container is such a delightful and important thing. Let's start the video. I have this quite simple Spring Boot project, and we are going to cover everything on this project. You can access this project on my GitHub account. You can find the links in the description of this video. What we are going to do during this video, we are going to cover why IoC Container is such a significant things, especially dependency inversion, what are important things. We are going to cover everything step by step during this video. What I'm going to do now, I will start everything with an example. Think about it, we are a payment company, and our manager said to us we had a payment provider in the past, but we want to deprecate it anymore. We want to implement a new payment provider, which name is Visa payment provider. How you are going to implement this? This is a very basic question. Think about it. We have this API, and this API gets the request from the clients. The clients send the payment request, and this API using the payment providers such as Masterpass, such as Visa, or maybe Bitcoin, maybe another the payment provider. We want to duplicate all of them, and we have to implement the Visa payment provider instead of the other provider. How you are going to provide this? If you are using the IoC Container, this will be very easy for you. If you don't use any IoC Container, if you have very good OOP standards, this will be still easy for you, but without any of them it will be very, very difficult. Think about you are the new student in the universities. You are going to learn OOP concept, and you have to implement this quite traditional way. How you are going to implement this? The basic way, you must create a controller in here. Maybe you already had a controller, and you have to create a payment provider which name is Visa provider, right? I will create a controller in here, controller package. I will create a controller package, and also I will create a provider package, and I will create a class in this provider package which name is Visa provider, and this class will consist of the pay method, and I will not write any logic into this method. It will just write a log in our console, and I will create another class in here which name is the payment controller. I will implement a Visa provider in a very simple and basic way. What I'm going to do this, I will give a REST controller annotation, because I must say to iOS Spring Boot, this is a controller. To getting the requests, I will import this, and I will write a method, public void pay method. It won't get any parameter, and this will be get HTTP method. This annotation comes from the Spring Boot. I'm not going to go into deeply what is the Spring Boot and what's the REST controller annotation, what is the get mapping annotation, but you can access this information quite easily on the internet. What we are going to do in a traditional way, a client send a request, which is get HTTP method, and we retrieve this request from the API into this method, and we have to use Visa as a payment provider. How we are going to provide this? Of course, we are create an instance of the Visa payment provider, and we are going to call pay methods. This is a fantastic way. There is not any issue and no problem at all. And I'm going to run my application using run, and I want to see this log on my console, and let's run this using go to declaration or HTTP usages or generate requests in HTTP clients. I will generate and HTTP clients. I will run this, and you can see why we didn't see, because it's, sorry, where is my console? Yes, my console. In here we can see the Visa payment is successful. What's wrong with this code? What's the problem on here? It looks like quite innocent. There is no any problem, right? We just create a new instance of the Visa provider using the new keyword, and there is no any problem at all. But think about it. We are a massive company, and we have a massive project, and we have to manage the dependencies in a proper way. One day our manager said, we don't want to use the Visa provider anymore. We have a different new provider, such as the Bitcoin provider. We have to implement this Bitcoin provider instead of the Visa provider. And you create this instance like this from the bunch of places of this code, and you have to duplicate every single place that you declared of this instance of this class. And there is a rule in solid principle, dependency inversion, says you do not depend on your concrete class, depends on your abstraction class. When you depend on abstraction class, you can manage your instances quite easily and well. How we are going to manage our instances? Of course, creating an abstract class. How we are going to create an abstract class? We can create an abstract class such as payment provider. Payments provider. Let's create an interface which name is payment provider, and it consists of methods which name is pay method, the pay method, and Visa provider should be extended of payment provider, implemented of payment provider, right? But this is not a solution for us. This is not what we want. We need two different things on this code. We have to create a class which is creating instance instead of us. And when each request may be the one singleton instance during the application lifecycle, we have to declare like this class, such as a factory. A factory could be solved our problem in a proper way. It should be. I don't know. Have you heard of what is a factory design pattern? And we can use the factory design pattern in here, creating instances instead of us. IoC container, not just only Spring Boot IoC container. All IoC containers are doing the same things. They are using the some design patterns, such as the factor design pattern, strategy design pattern, propagation design pattern, observer design pattern, proxy design pattern. They are also using this design pattern, creating instances in a proper way, such as a singleton, such as a prototype, or each HTTP request. We are going to cover all of them during the next videos, but not just only this video. We are just only cover why managing dependencies is such an important thing. Let's create a factory class. I'm going to a little bit to change of my example. Of course, we are a company and we have nothing about the providers. We have to create a class which is creating instances of this provider instead of us. How we are going to implement this? Of course, using the factory design pattern. Let's create a factory interface in here. We will have a factory interface, and this interface consists of two different methods, which is create payment provider and create payments. Just only create payment provider, not render. We don't need any render in here. Just only, sorry, I accidentally deleted. We have only create payment provider in here. And also we have to create another class, should be extended from interface, this interface, factory interface, which name is payment provider. Sorry, why I couldn't write it. Payments. Ah, sorry, we already declared a payment provider. No, we are not going to declare a payment provider. We are creating, we should create a factory, another factory class, which name is payments factory. Yes, this will be good. And it should be extended from the factory method, factory interface, and we have to implement these functions in here. And we have to complete of this class, but before the completing of this class, we have to create two different provider for us. What is the another two different provider? Of course, the master pass provider. Another provider is Bitcoin provider, and this provider should be extended from where payment provider, this method should be extended from the payment provider. And I'm going to write system out, system.out.println, paid with Bitcoin. And I will extend our masterpass provider from also payment provider. And we have to implement our methods, and I will create paid with masterpass. Fantastic and glorious. There is not any issue or problem during this application. We have to write some code into the payment factory. This class should create some instances instead of us. One day we are working with masterpass provider, another day, maybe 5 months later, we will work with Bitcoin provider. We never know, but this class will create an instance of what we want. This is exactly what we want during the application lifecycle. And IoC containers are doing the same things like that. But they have, of course, a different concept, and they are much more detailed. And we can't implement an IoC container in here. I have no the skills to implement and completely an IoC container from the zero to hero. It will be very, very difficult. But we are going to implement the factory pattern in here. What we are going to do, of course, we want to create an instance of this payment factory method. That's why I will create a static and payment factory method. I will put a static block, and this static block, I will create instance of this payment factory, and I will create I will do it in two different things in here. The private payment provider, create masterpass payment provider, and create Visa payment provider. Now I want to work with Visa payment provider, right? I will just call create Visa payment provider method, and this method will create instance of the Visa payment provider. Or maybe one day, 5 months later, I said myself, or my manager said to me, we have to work with the Bitcoin payment provider. Of course, we don't have any Bitcoin payment provider now. We wrote every single thing about the Bitcoin provider, and we have to implement Bitcoin provider into our factory method. How we are going to implement it? The same way, private is should turn payment provider, because we know Bitcoin payment provider is a payment provider. How we know it? Because we already extended from the payment provider. That's why we know it's a payment provider. And we are going to create a payment provider in here. Also, we are going to create masterpass payment provider. Not a masterpass payment provider, Bitcoin payment provider. We are going to call Bitcoin payment provider in here. How we are going to implement this into our payment controller? We will deprecate this anymore. We don't need this anymore, because this is completely not what we want. During the application lifecycle, we are destroying readability, scalability, and the maintainability of this code. We cannot be flexible when we are dependent of something. This is, I asked this question, what's the wrong of this code? We are dependent of the Visa provider. This is not what we want. We shouldn't depend on concrete class. We shouldn't depend on anything during the application lifecycle. We have to manage our dependencies in a proper way. Yes, true. Today I'm working with the Visa provider, but I will never ever give a guarantee to you we will not work with Visa provider in 5 months later. Probably we will work with the different provider, such as the Bitcoin provider. That's why we have to manage our dependencies in a proper way. That's why we had to use some IoC containers, such as Spring IoC Container. Maybe there is a .NET IoC Container. Maybe there's another framework which is provided some IoC Container. We have to use them to manage our dependencies and instances in a proper way. What we are going to do in here now, it's very, very simple. Just I will call payment provider and I will not call payment factory and payment factory. I will call just payment factory, get instance of the payment factory, but we didn't get instance. Of course, we had to declare another method in here. The name should be get instance. We are going to get this instance, and also payment factory dot create payment provider and the pay. That's all. Let's change this. I didn't like that. I usually like this way, payment provider, and I will call pay methods from payment provider. That's all. Let's generate an HTTP request. I will run, and we can see the provider in our on our console, the Visa payment is successful. What is a provider that, of course, we didn't. Sorry, this is my mistake. I had to rerun this application again, and I will generate another HTTP request in here. And I will run this method, and as you can see in our console, we paid everything with Bitcoin. Now we are going to pay the different things. Our manager said we don't use the payment, the Bitcoin in a couple of amounts. We will use the MasterPass. Okay, that's great. Let's change the instance in here. We should use create MasterPass payment provider. I will rerun my application. Sorry, in here. I will rerun my application. And I will create another, no, I'm not going to create another HTTP request anymore. I will run this HTTP request, and let's look at our console. We paid everything with MasterPass. IoC Container exactly the same thing. Manages instances instead of us, and each manages instances during the application lifecycle. And that's why it's such an important and delightful things. Think about it. We are just create an instance and like in here, but IoC containers provide so many complex features, such as the lazy loading, the eagle loading, or such as singleton, the prototype, and each HTTP request. And IoC containers provides us such important features. We are going to cover everything step by step during the next videos. In this video, we are just only covered why IoC containers is such important things. Think about it. We just create two different factory managing our instances, and there is not any other more feature. There is not any lazy loading feature. There is not any singleton feature. We have just basic, the factory class, and this factory class create instance instead of us. But think about you are working in a massive project such as AWS, or maybe the MasterPass payments, or another bank, and you have to manage your dependencies in a proper way. That's why IoC container is such a significant things, managing instances instead of us. Is there more something that I need to say? I don't remember anything that I need to say. This is all I got to do now. I hope you enjoyed the whole video. I hope you liked the video. This is the first English speaking video, but promise in the next videos I will be much better at teaching in English. It's really difficult to talk about something on the YouTube, even if you know it very well, but it's like public speaking, right? We're always afraid of public speaking, and when you record yourself for YouTube, maybe it's for something another else, when you're doing some presentation in your company or in the school, it's like completely the public speaking, and you most of the time we forget what we need to say. We mass vocabularies, we mass grammars, we're doing some mistake during our speech. Those things are normal, and this is my first English speaking video, and it was always my dream creating some contents on the YouTube in English, and I hope so it will be much better in the next videos. Thank you for watching me. See you in the next lecture.